This pot show is pleased to bring you Whiskey and Westerns on Wednesday, direct from Dodge City, Kansas, featuring rich topics on the legends of the Old West. Whiskey to motivate, Westerns to inspire. Get it, play it, drink it.
Hello, my name is Mike King, and we would like to welcome you to Whiskey and Westerns on Wednesday.
My name is Brad Smalley, and tonight we're going to talk about one of the legends of Dodge City. And like always, we're going to drink a little whiskey.
But I have a question before we get started.
What's that?
You're doing a Whiskey and Westerns without a hat. How does that come about?
That is a little abnormal for me, I admit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a story behind that. I had a hat, same one I'm usually wearing.
Good looking hat, got a nice brim around it.
It's been my hat for a number of years
round
now.
Top, I think.
A couple days ago, Saturday, I was outside. It's gardening season now, and I'm actually making some tomato cages. And what I've got are these 20-foot cattle panels, and I cut them into thirds, and I roll them up and got to tie them off, and they make the best tomato cages in the world. They really do. Drive a stake through them, they're solid, they're not going anywhere. Except those things don't roll real easy. They're heavy gauge wire, they're pretty stiff, and I'm not trying to do this by myself, getting the curvature in it and trying to hold it tight together so I can take that prong that I cut off and bend it over around, you know, and it's all I can do to hang on to these. And I've done about 7 of them already, and my hands are jello by this point. I just got nothing left on my knuckle. Trying to hold it together, trying to get this one last one done. So bend that prong over.
Are you telling me you got your hat on it this time?
Well, yeah, of course I did.
Oh, okay.
When do I not? Yeah,
that's true.
I'm outside, it's sun shining. Okay. Oh, yeah.
And you're doing a tomato
I'm making tomato cages out of heavy gauge cattle panels.
Okay.
And I'm trying to bend that prong over to hold it tight, so I can work on the rest of them. And my hand let go, and it sprung open, and that prong that I had cut was pretty sharp. And as it sprung open, it caught the brim of my hat and cut a 2-inch gash right through the front of the brim.
I don't see any Band-Aids.
If I'd have been leaning 6 inches further forward, I might have lost an eye or a part of my nose.
Boy, that's a close call.
So I apologize to you folks. I got to go hatless.
Well, it would have been, I think, really appropriate to wear your hat tonight and show the split hat.
Well, I'll have to, next time I'll bring it in. I'll show you how close I came to being eyeless instead of hatless.
Well, we're sure glad you're safe and you're with us. Well, before we get too involved in our show, we have an announcement to make on about the upcoming May 3rd Boots and Beer event.
One of the best events of the year.
Yeah, it's called a Boots and Beer auction. So I've taken the liberty to invite a special guest tonight. Her name is Laura Highwater, and she is from Boot Hill Museum. She's the marketing director. And so at this point in time, we'd like to have Laura come on stage and join us for a little conversation about Boots and Beer.
Well, thanks for having me on your show, Mike.
Oh, welcome, Laura. What can you tell us about Boots and Beer?
Boots and Beer. So
it's an auction, right?
It is an auction. It's a live and silent auction, and we've got some really cool things happening with the auction this year. This is the Boot Hill Museum's 9th annual Boots and Beer auction.
So you've had it for 9 years.
We've had it for 9 years.
And so it must have been pretty successful if you keep on having one.
And we are going strong. And this year we have some high expectations. We actually have been doing Boots and Beer out of the Hoover Pavilion for quite some time.
Which you moved it.
We moved it.
You moved it. And the reason you moved it?
We moved it because we wanted some better sound and we wanted to fit more people in the room. Okay. And we are able to do that at the Boot Hill Casino and Resort Conference Center in Dodge City.
Very good. Pretty classy place, that casino.
It really is, yeah. And there's lots of room. So we are really trying to sell some tickets And we've got some special features this year with Boots and Beer, and I'd like to share some of those with you.
Sure, absolutely. You go right ahead. So talk to us a little bit about the event, what's going to happen, what can people expect if they buy a ticket to, okay?
So your ticket will get you into the event for Boots and Beer, and you'll be able to experience a lot of different foods and craft beer pairings, and then you'll be able to participate in a silent and live auction. But what is special about this Boots and Beer is, and we've never done this before, but we are doing a chef shootout. And what we're going to do is we're going to have some...
You're not going to give those chefs any guns,
well, I think they need it.
Really?
They should.
Okay.
That would be really exciting.
Maybe a 6-gun there to have a chef shootout? Well, that's an appropriate name, though, right?
It really is for Boot
Boots
Hill.
and
Yeah,
Beer.
for what we're trying to do. Sure.
Right.
So it makes sense. But we're having some of the top chefs in Dodge City, Prime on the 9, Firesides at the casino, the restaurant there, and the conference center. Those 3 chefs will be battling it out for a title and a trophy, and they will be drawing ingredients for their dishes. Each chef will make a dessert, an appetizer, and a main course. And so everyone that bought tickets to Boots and Beer will be able to taste their food, and they'll be able to drink beer along with that. But then they'll be able to actually vote on their favorite dish. And then the chef will win a trophy, a title.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what can you expect at a live auction?
We've got some trips, we've got some furniture, we've got some sporting packages. We have tons of silent auction items, gift certificates, gift baskets. So much that to name really right here in your show, and we keep collecting them, and we have such a good turnout and so many amazing donors that actually give us these things.
Cool.
The city of Dodge City is so supportive of what we're doing, and everybody's really helped out with this event because the proceeds of the Boots and Beer auction will go to our capital campaign for the new exhibits building.
Very good. So all the money that you raise will go to the new exhibit building, which I hear is going to be a fantastic place to visit for people from all over the world who are actually going to see and experience Dodge City like it was never before when it actually started out in 1872, and the whole walkthrough is going to be at different stages, but the money goes to that. So let's go back a little bit. When is the event?
It is Friday, May 3rd.
And what time do the doors open?
The doors open at 6:30, and then dinner will start around 7.
How much do these tickets go for?
So we are selling tickets for $60 per person.
That's pretty good because you get $60 and a meal and some fun and entertainment. That kind of thing.
And endless booze, really. Endless, kind of.
Endless?
Yeah.
That's kind of like a whiskey and a western in itself.
That's right. And actually at Boots and Beer, so there'll be a craft beer pairing with the dinner, but we'll also have the Dodge City Brewing Company there, and they'll have a keg of their 1872 lager.
Oh, wow.
Have you tried that, Mike?
I don't think we have. We might want to try that.
Yeah.
1872 lager? Lager beer. In a keg.
In a keg.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay. So everybody's going to get a cup or a glass?
If they want, sure.
And just drink all the lager they want.
All the lager they want.
And remember 1872 like it was.
And if people are interested in buying tickets, they can go to boothill.org and they can order tickets online, or they can call us at 620-227-8188. They can call the museum and reserve their tickets there. So we are also selling tables of 8 for $450, so you get a discount if you buy a table.
Very good. So get a discount if you have a table. So really, a person probably want to get a table.
Well, yeah.
They got a lot of
bring your
friends.
friends. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you coming all the way down from the museum and being a part of our show, and we're proud of the work that you do there. All right, well, Laura, we thank you very much for being here tonight. Now I'm going to bring Brad back on set, and I'm going to break the news to Brad about these tickets I have here. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, Brad said to have you back. I've got to break the news tonight. What I'd like to do is I'd like for you and I to sponsor a history table, or two history tables, you being at one and me being at the other, and hopefully get some of our friends out there and buy a few of these tickets for us.
Sounds awesome. I'm down.
I'd be very disappointed, though, if you and I were just the only ones sitting at the tables.
Apparently there will be whiskey and beer.
Well, yes, I hear there is going to be, and lots to eat.
And I have had that 1872 lager.
Oh, yeah?
That's a good beer.
Is it?
That's a good beer.
So it's well worth the $60 just to test the beer, and you get that for free.
And you get to hang out with these guys.
Oh, yeah, and we're going to tell a lot of history stories. We're going to talk about our show. So if you're interested in buying some tickets, 2 tables worth, you can reach us at wildwestpodcast@gmail.com. Let me say that again. If you're interested in purchasing some tickets at the Boots and Beer at Brad and I's table, then write us at wildwestpodcast@gmail.com, and Brad and I will be more than happy to be there, and we would also be very happy to, like I said, I got to get rid of quite a few tickets.
Hey, it's a great cause, saving these stories. That's what it's all about. Not just that we can keep doing what we're doing here, but
absolutely.
That museum, it's a treasure chest of the American West.
Absolutely.
You'd be doing the world a favor.
Let's talk a little bit about our whiskey for the evening.
We got a special one.
Oh, yeah?
Tonight. Now, for those of you who follow the whiskey industry, if any of you are, and you should, because it's a fascinating world. Every year there are awards and things that come out, and this year, this particular bottle was voted by those who know the most about things, which we're not one, we just reap the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
This is the best whiskey in the world.
And how do you know it's the best whiskey in the world?
Well, because they tried them all.
Oh.
And you can, all distilleries, they can submit different whiskeys.
Mm-hmm.
This particular one, the Henry McKenna, comes from the Heaven Hill Distillery.
All right.
Which consistently puts out some award winners. They've got some fantastic whiskeys coming out of there. And the Henry McKenna, bottled in bond.
All right.
10-year-old whiskey, as of this year.
Okay.
Was voted the best whiskey in the world. At least the civilized world. Maybe the uncivilized world doesn't drink whiskey. I don't know.
So tell us a little bit about this whiskey. Or should we do a little whiskey test now?
Well, while we're talking about it, we might as well give it a pour. Of course,
okay. I'm excited to have a little.
We took an advanced screening.
We did. That's why we're.
Top you off a little more there.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Boy.
Now this is, as I said, bottle and bond. Bourbon whiskey, and I guess I should explain bottle and bond, but a lot of people probably don't know what that means.
I have no idea what bottle and bond is unless it's one of those James Bond movies.
It's got nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay.
Right. Over the years, the whiskey industry, as it was really starting to come into its own, there was a lot of, shall I say, nefarious business practices going on in the early days throughout the 19th century mostly. And in the 1890s, I think 1897, the Bottle and Bond Act was passed, which stipulated...
That's some good history. I have no idea.
It stipulated certain regulations for whiskey.
Okay.
To be bottle and bond today, you have to have your whiskey has to come from one distillery, okay, which eliminates blending. There can be no blending in a bottle and bond. It must come from a single blending season.
Okay.
So right. This being 10 years old, this would have had to have been, or distilling season rather, not blending season.
Okay.
This would have had to have been distilled in its entirety. This is 2019, so okay. 2009.
Gotcha.
Is the year this had to be distilled. And it can
so
be
we're talking a little bit of history here.
Absolutely. It can be no less than 4 years old.
Okay.
Which also makes it a straight bourbon whiskey. It's just some of those legal terminologies that you find on bourbon labels.
I didn't know any of that.
This went all the way. It's aged 10 years. Minimum of 4. This is aged 10 years. And it also has to be bottled at no less than 100 proof.
Okay, that's part of that bond.
Right. That's all.
Has to be
to meet the legal definition of bottle and bond, single distillery, single distilling season, no less than 4 years old, and not less than 100 proof.
Wow.
Which makes it 50% alcohol by volume. And I think this might be the highest proof whiskey that we've done yet on this show.
Well, I'm ready to take it for a ride. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh, that smells good. There is, I get absolute vanilla butterscotch on the nose. On the taste, the butterscotch is fairly heavy.
You get a little bit of rye spice out of that too.
There's definitely some rye in there. It is spicy. First I thought that was the alcohol, but no, it's, I don't know if it's real high rye in their mash bill. I didn't look. I'm guessing maybe 15-20%.
Now you mentioned earlier it has some kind of a fruity taste to it, right?
There is a little bit of dark fruit. What I get is, we figured we hashed it out for a little while. I get red vines, like
red vines, okay,
red vine Twizzlers, that kind of thing. Just right there on the finish, very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Very subtle. Which I'm glad of because I don't care for those.
Well, all right. Now that we've taken this one for a drive, what would you rate that? Would you call that the best whiskey in the world? I mean,
well, you know, the 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
I'd give it a 4.7.
4.7. So it's getting close. I think that's probably one of the highest ones we've rated, isn't it?
It's. I definitely put it on par with the. Oh, what did we do last time? The. I just lost it.
Well, me too.
The Eagle Rare.
Eagle Rare.
Eagle Rare.
Oh, yeah, and we couldn't find that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we couldn't remember it.
Well, you won't be able to find this
because it's so rare. It doesn't even stick in your head.
Once word gets out, you won't be able to find this in
well, to tell you the truth, when I went down to get a bottle of this was the only bottle on the shelf.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. So I imagine it's going pretty quick. All right. Well, it's that time in our show where we introduce this week's whiskey, which we have done. And now we're going to talk a little bit about one of our legends. So which legend are you thinking about tonight?
Well, I don't have to think about him because Laura brought him up already.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Yes, she did, and we talked a little bit about the Hoover Pavilion.
Right.
And so that kind of was our giveaway, wasn't it? Okay. So, you know, whiskey was a popular beverage back in 1872, and
was indeed.
Especially among the buffalo hunters and soldiers in this area. The only place to buy whiskey in 1872, early 1872, around June, was at Fort Dodge.
Was at Fort Dodge. It was the only supply depot in the area.
But the only place was at the Sutler store.
Right.
That's what I understand. And in June of 1872, Colonel Richard Dodge arrives on the fort, and of course he wanted to set in law and order because he was hearing some bad rumors about the fort and how drunk all his soldiers were. In fact, some of the soldiers tried to get on the horses, and they were so drunk they'd fall off. They couldn't even get in formation.
It was bad. Well, that's the only leisure activity that they had. I mean, you had a billiards table there in the Sutler store, but everybody plays pool better when they're drinking.
So they primarily, though, just sold to the officers, right?
Legally.
Legally.
They sold to the officers. Right.
And then they would...
There were times where they opened it up to...
Yeah, the buffalo hunters would come in sometimes and
right.
get a drink or two. But you know, there's a background story here that a lot of people don't realize. What really happened in June of 1872 with liquor sales? And there was a guy by the name of Lieutenant...
It was Ed Turner.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about his story and how that story then becomes the catalyst to the fate of whiskey sales on the fort.
Well, Ed Turner, he was I think he was a second lieutenant, actually, fairly recently promoted, still on good terms. He was not that long in the past. He'd been just a private soldier, still on great terms with the men under his command. Fraternization was still going on, even though it really shouldn't have been. And of course, Colonel Dodge, he was a stickler for military etiquette. He already frowned on such things. But he gave Lieutenant Turner a job to do. He had to go down to Camp Supply and escort another officer back to the post at Fort Dodge. And during that trip, by the time they got back to Fort Dodge, Turner was 9.5 sheets to the wind. He was gone. So drunk that their wagons and everything got caught up in the river, and they bogged down. He just left them there, left them in the river, went on into Fort Dodge, kept drinking.
And he didn't really know how to treat his mules because he left his mules and his wagon in the Arkansas River.
Yeah.
And just walked away
livestock and everything. Just left.
Headed to the sutler store, finish off some drinks. So what happened there?
Well, he got there and got fairly belligerent, loud, hopped up on his horse, started riding around, shooting bullets at everything that caught his eye. He rode right into the billiard hall. He tried riding right into Mr. Wright's personal house.
Now, this is an officer and a gentleman.
This is an officer. Well, he was an officer. He was supposed to be a gentleman, but he clearly wasn't.
Well, not riding his horse and shooting bullets. And he rode it into Robert Wright's house.
His own house. Yeah.
Rode the horse around.
Colonel Dodge, he comes out to take personal charge of the situation, tries reasoning with Lieutenant Turner, and he threatens him with arrest. Turner says, you and what army, basically. Not realizing the army he was in is the one who was going to arrest him. Not that intelligent when you're
That's not
he might have got a hold of some bad liquor too. We don't.
Well, that's true.
We don't know.
Could have been Snake Eye instead of.
He was just gone.
Wow.
Finally, actually started throwing down fisticuffs on Colonel Dodge.
Ooh.
Dodge he's a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen photographs of him. He's a big man, very strong. And in Dodge's own words, he said, when I finally had enough punches that he felt that he had any right to take,
mm-hmm.
he grabbed a pool cue and broke it right over Lieutenant Turner, knocked him out, and they clapped him in irons and had him arrested. And at this point, there had been enough incidents of drunken behavior that Dodge draws the line. He says, we're done.
This is the line in the sand, right?
Yeah.
And he closes down.
They had closed it, closed the liquor sales, the bar there, the sutler store for several times for various reasons prior to this. But at this point, Dodge is just done. There's too lawless. Eliminate the X factor. X factor being the liquor. We're done. The bar's closed. No more.
All right. Well, now there's no more liquor in the area. So what happens?
Luckily,
there's a lot of people just disappointed.
Oh yeah, because immediately you had a whole lot of freighters, you had a whole lot of soldiers, mm-hmm. certainly, you had a whole lot of buffalo hunters,
right?
And in the very near future, you were going to have a whole lot of railroad workers that all wanted to do a whole lot of drinking.
That's true, because in June of 1872, the Santa Fe Railroad was headed that direction.
Oh, it was well into Kansas. It was on its way to the site. They knew it was coming.
And it became dry. Mm-hmm. No whiskey. Wow.
So
he was a popular guy, right? This Colonel Dodge.
Well, he was.
Okay.
Good man,
Good man.
fantastic soldier.
Just cut off the whiskey and made him even more popular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Luckily for him, well,
Right.
luckily for us, I'll say it that way, there was an enterprising 24-year-old Canadian immigrant by the name of George Merritt Hoover.
Okay.
And Mr. Hoover, being the enterprising man that he was, entrepreneur, he got himself his wagon and headed east.
All right.
He got to, I can't remember where it was. It wasn't Wichita. You go all the way back to Kansas City.
He
go
went
all the way
to
back to
Kansas City in a wagon.
Yeah, because Wichita was too new. It didn't
Right.
have any liquor. Yeah, he went all the way back to Kansas City, bought everything that he could, alcohol related, and brought it back to Fort Dodge. And knowing that the military reservation at that time was 5 miles in every direction from the post itself, he went to the center of the fort and measured off. What he did, he tied a rag to the rim of his wagon
Okay.
and headed straight west.
All right.
And every time that rag hit the dirt, it left a mark. And he measured the rotations. He did the math, the circumference of the wheel, everything, and got to 5 miles. And when he got 5 miles west of the fort, he took one step over the line, dropped the end of his wagon, started digging some sod, bit 2 sod planks, pulled a board off his wagon, laid it across, and opened the bar that became Dodge City. That was June the 17th, 1872.
So
Happy
that's
birthday,
when the
Dodge.
very first bar opened up.
Mhm.
And Dodge City didn't exist.
There was no Dodge City.
No Dodge City. But there was a wagon out there. And the only other thing out there was a man who had settled a ranch, and his name was Sittler.
Yeah, Henry Sittler.
Henry Sittler. And it was almost right there at the bank of the Arkansas River. And so happened that the buffalo hunters found out about this wagon. And all of a sudden, you got a booming business.
Well, it didn't take long.
No.
Yeah, he started selling whiskey at 25 cents a ladle.
Now, this is in June.
This is in June. The railroad didn't arrive until September the 5th.
So what happens after he opens this bar?
Oh, it was within a week he had competition. Hoodoo Brown, he opens the bar just a couple of lots down. And then you've got 2 bars in a town that doesn't quite exist yet.
Yeah. Nothing else but 2 bars, right?
And if the reputation of Dodge City needs more cement than it already has, the third business that opens up was a gunsmith shop. Because that's what you need in the wild woolly open. You've got bars and guns.
Gotcha.
That's a recipe for safety. Hoover was there at that time and was ready, willing, and able to do what he did. It's just, it's all a matter of, I'd almost call it fate.
So fate, but there was a presence. And that presence now, we have to reestablish in history. It wasn't Turner, it wasn't Wright, it wasn't Dodge, Colonel Dodge. It was Mr. Hoover.
I think if Turner hadn't been there, it would have been somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. So really, with that kind of thought in mind, we have to say that thank you, Mr. George M. Hoover, for being the father and the starter of Dodge City. So now we need to talk a little bit about Mr. Hoover and what kind of contributions he made to this community past the liquor store.
I would say of all of the legends of Dodge that we've talked about in the past, Hoover's presence is felt more today by and large than any of the others as far as just economics are concerned.
Okay.
As Laura mentioned earlier, the Hoover Pavilion, one of the largest gathering places in Dodge City. His money helped build that. Of course,
and that's right out there close to where he set up the first saloon, right?
Yes, the Henry Sittler, whose house we mentioned earlier.
Right.
His house bordered, basically his property bordered on the river, which is kind of the edge of what is today Wright Park.
Right.
Named in honor of Robert Wright. That was his farm originally. And the Hoover Pavilion is built right there. I mean, if you superimpose 2 photographs of Henry Sittler's house with Hoover Pavilion, they'd be on the same property almost.
Gotcha.
But over the next couple of months, by the time the railroad got there and they knew exactly where the right-of-way was going to be, a lot of those businesses, they started moving what became the north side of the railroad tracks.
Okay.
Hoover was one of them. His building became part of the original Front Street.
Okay. So we're talking about north and south of the tracks now.
Right.
So
the whole north-south railroad tracks, that started from the very beginning, even before there was a railroad.
Okay.
In fact, the good businesses were north of the railroad tracks. On the south side, the businesses were just as affluent, just as popular, but they had a different reputation.
Gotcha.
And it all goes back to the very beginning. Hoover moved north of the tracks. Zimmerman moved north of the tracks in his gunsmith shop. Hoover and his partner, McClellan, they had not just a bar, but a liquor and beer wholesaler.
Okay.
By 1878, they were bringing in Anheuser beer, several whiskeys that are still around today.
Did they have them big horses when they came by?
No, I can't remember when they started with the Clydesdales, but it might have been in Hoover's time, but in his later age.
Okay, but they shipped most of it by train.
By train. They were actually instrumental in developing refrigerated rail cars so that they could ship their beer out cold.
Wow. That's amazing. And he also sold cigars too, didn't he?
Oh, thriving cigar business.
Almost as many cigars as he did.
He was selling 5,000 cigars a week.
Oh my!
In 1880, 5,000 cigars a week.
Wow, that's a lot of cigars. Now the big business really gets to start to kick in, and that's going to be the cattle drives. So they've got to have law and order. So what I understand is that he also took on some political positions.
He did. He was actually the first mayor of Dodge City, the first elected mayor.
Beatty was the first.
Peter Bailey, Beatty, yes, former sergeant stationed at Fort Dodge, actually. Beatty was the first appointed mayor when they were really putting together the town. Hoover was part of the Dodge City Town Committee that organized and helped to turn it from just a boom camp into an actual city, as far as buying lots, selling them, bringing people in. He was a state legislator twice, I think, 4-term city mayor, president of the Bank of Dodge City, which he actually started.
He started the bank.
He started the bank. It was a private bank.
And what year was that?
It was 1881. It was in the 1880s. I want to say 87.
87. Okay.
87 maybe.
So where did they keep their money if they didn't have a bank?
Probably in Hoover's safe.
So you never could rob a bank around here until 1887.
That was the thing. There was never a bank robbery in Dodge City. They would always rob the little towns on the outskirts, but it was all the Dodge City police officers that went to chase them down. Nobody dared to rob a bank in Dodge.
Right. Too many pistols.
Right. Hoover that bank actually that he started was privately owned, is still in existence today.
Oh, yeah.
Became the Bank of Dodge City, which is today Fidelity State Bank.
Wow.
So yeah, it's still around. When I say his presence is still felt today, that's very true. Did just about everything you could do in Dodge, politically, business-wise.
And when it was all said and done, the man was pretty wealthy, wasn't he?
He was one of the wealthiest men, certainly in Kansas.
Yeah.
At the time of his death.
Did he ever get married?
He did. He married Margaret and called her Maggie through her entire life. I believe, and I'm going to feel bad if I'm wrong, but I believe she was a former prostitute.
Okay.
Married.
That would be bad.
Well,
Hoover's going to come back and haunt you.
They were everywhere. Well, if he doesn't, she might. Well, so many of them did.
Yeah,
married prostitutes, former prostitutes. Right. Not anything bad on the job description.
That's true.
They were ladies just like anybody. Had to be. And very well respected, I might add. Got married. They were married for, it was fairly early on, 1876.
77, somewhere in there?
Yeah, was when they got married. And were together for the rest of their lives. She died just a couple of months before he did.
Right.
In 1914.
Right.
And very much in love. One of those classic stories.
Wow.
Hoover lost his life, or she lost her life, and Hoover just immediately, he took a turn for the worse. And as all of his friends gathered around, he said, I'm done. I'm ready.
Wow.
I'm ready to go meet Maggie again.
Yeah. It's a great story. George M. Hoover, one of the legends of Dodge City. You want to add anything else about his life, Brad, before we close out tonight?
One thing I've always found ironic about Mr. Hoover, despite the fact that he was the biggest liquor retailer,
that's right,
in certainly western Kansas for years.
Right.
He was an adamant supporter of the Kansas Prohibition Law of 1880.
Wow. So
very much on the law and order faction as opposed to the gang that we talk about so often on the show.
So 1881, 1880, Kansas stops, is actually prohibition, and he supports it.
They legally stop.
Right. But it's still going on here.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah, but at that point in time, though, he was advocating for
because he was very much a rule of law type person. He could break it, but as long as the law was enforced, that's fine.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Brad, great story tonight. George M. Hoover, another Legends of Dodge City. I do want to remind all of you that we do have tickets, 2 tables worth of tickets for the Boots and Beer, upcoming Boots and Beer on May the 3rd. And
blast, there's great food, great drinks, great company. Bid on items, there's some fantastic donations out there, and just come and enjoy the heck out of yourselves. It's a lot of fun.
So if you're interested in buying a Boots and Beer ticket, we got them right here, 2 tables worth. Write us at wildwestpodcast@gmail.com. Again, wildwestpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to sell you a ticket at the Wild West table. Wild West Podcast.
Wild West Podcast. Right.
Anything else you want to say, Brad, before we close out?
Well, you should already be following us on Facebook, Wild West Podcast. We've got a great page. Keep updates for all of these episodes coming out as they air. But also, if you're not already, you need to follow Boot Hill Museum on Facebook too, just in case you want to see some pictures of all of these awesome items that are being donated.
Absolutely.
Every day they're bringing new stuff in. Check it out. They show it on their Facebook page. And in addition, you get great updates just from the museum on a regular basis as well. So do that.
We have a lot of pride about this show, is that we support our community. And we support it in various different ways. But we also not only support our community, but we continue to talk about the legends of Dodge City. So join us next time for another Whiskey and Westerns on Wednesday. Brad?